Hi, my name is Charles Malky, biologist and plant expert with Ivory Organics, where we grow cool plants and authors, saving the world with the home garden. And today we're here with Bruce Blavin of the California Rare Fruit Growers. He's someone that I met about 5 years ago now, and he introduced me to the California Rare Fruit Growers chapter. And from there, we met so many people that have been on the Ivory Organics YouTube channel, including Tom Spellman of Dave Wilson Nursery, Edgar Valdivia, one of the leading educators in dragon fruit, Paul Talley, another educator predominantly with figs. We also met with the late Floyd Zager of Zager Genetics, where he's basically known as the leading hybridizer of stone fruit trees of the modern era. We also met with Julie Frink, the queen of avocados, and also Anthony Anderson of Grow Paradise. And thank you so very much for bringing all of this education and knowledge to the Ivory Organics YouTube channel, Bruce Blavin.
My pleasure.
We're also going to be touring his Malibu food orchard, which includes honeybees and pomegranates and dragon fruit and so much more. You're going to tell us and share with us the challenges as well as the benefits of a coastal climate growing experience. And he's also going to share with those of you here in Southern California and beyond. You don't necessarily need to be in California, right, to join the California Rare Fruit Growers. And I'm hoping maybe we can start off with that, and if you can share what is some of the value of the California Rare Fruit Growers and how can we be a part of it?
The California Fruit Grower is an organization devoted to encouraging people to grow rare fruits from around the world. The organization itself is filled with people from all walks of life, and it is some of the most generous people you will ever meet on the planet. If you attend the meetings, which many of them in the last few years have been on Zoom, which means you can see them from anywhere, and hopefully in the near future we'll be doing in-house meetings again. We're getting past the pandemic. But in the meetings, we exchange science, we exchange plants, we exchange information. Some of the most exciting things that you can do is actually tour individual backyards. So you can see what they're growing, how they're growing, what their successes are, what their failures are. You can access information about the organization on the internet at crfg.org. It will tell you where the individual chapters are located, which, by the way, are even beyond the state of California. There's chapters in many states. In addition to that, you need to join the national organization, which runs around $29 a year, and then you usually join a local chapter, which can be anywhere from $6 to $10 a year. So it's not a big investment for a tremendous amount of information, and you'll be able to access growing tips and breeding tips. We teach you how to air layer, we teach you how to graft, we teach you all the tricks about soil. We have interesting lecturers coming in to give you expertise on a wide range of subjects. And I promise you, you will truly enjoy the time that you spend with the CRFG organization. But here in Malibu, which is where I live now, I recently moved here about 8 years ago. And at my previous house, I had about 6,000 plants. At this location now, I'm probably approaching 4,500. So I've been very, very active planting all the time. Very different conditions from my previous house. Living at 2,500 feet up in the air, we get some very unique weather conditions. We don't get too extreme heat. We don't get into the hundreds, but we do get into the 90s, and we don't get much below 40. So it's enough for the chill factors for many of the plants, and I don't really have to worry about anything freezing to death, which is very unique. So basically, from an agricultural zone position, we're about a 9B or 9A. Other than that, I've done my best to try and collect a wide variety of plants in addition to a wide variety of fruit trees and vines. I also have flowers from around the world and trees from around the world, a cactus and succulent garden here too. I keep bees, which is very good for pollinating everything. And because we are so removed from everything here, I have water gardens around the entire property so that the bees have access to water all the time. Other than that, I keep very busy with the wild animals in the area. I try to share things with everybody. We have bobcats and coyotes and quails and ravens and a wide variety of hawks here. I try to keep everything organic. I do not use any type of poisons here. No rodenticides, no rat poisons, because I don't want to interrupt the food chains here, which is so critical to the environment. And it provides such a wonderful show for my family and I, just to enjoy sharing the land with the animals that have already been here for thousands of years before we ever got here. In terms of the current growing situation, one of the two problems I have experienced here is gophers, which I still have not mastered that completely, and wind. We seem to get a tremendous amount of wind, which can on occasion strip trees of their new leaves, which can be very frustrating at times. But the longer I'm here, the more the root structure has been established, and so the trees grow stronger. And so we're able to battle some of the winds much more effectively now. As many of you know, water in California is becoming more restrictive, and so even here at my house, the water company has reduced our water usage by 50% starting June 1st. So we have to get more creative in the way we water and treat the land here. We have to do a lot more mulching, and we have to be very specific with the water that we use so that it's very directed to the individual plants and not simply thrown in general directions where there's a lot of waste. And watering after hours is also very good because there's less evaporation. So there's all kinds of things that you can learn through CRFG too. But growing has been a passion of mine for many, many years. My father introduced me to growing when I was a kid and told me I could grow anything I wanted as long as I took care of them. So at a very young age, I was growing a wide variety of freestone fruit trees in Woodland Hills when I was growing up in the 1960s. So it was very enjoyable. In terms of things that I grow here, I try to grow things in what we call zone pushing. So not everything should actually grow well here, but we try to encourage things to grow that might require more chill or more heat or more water, more tropical, subtropical. And it's not always easy. We succeed quite often, and we do fail from time to time, but we keep trying. We never say die here when it comes to growing, because you can always be surprised with something that looks dead, and 2 weeks later it's come back and it's in full bloom again.
So let's take a tour of your backyard orchard, which you've collected obviously over the course of decades. And I know that you're also a major contributor and donor to the California Rare Fruit Growers and those people that are in the chapter, such as myself, that get to reap the benefit of some of the things that you will never find at a big box store, but you will only find through a chapter such as a local chapter near you. And again, no matter where you are in the country, you can have this network and this dialogue with people that have stuff that you will never otherwise find. And this is going to be a kind of tour into seeing, I know he's got a fantastic collection of pomegranates, and you're going to see varieties again you won't ever find at a big box store.
And again, many of the things that I grow here have been started from little cuttings, 6-8 inch long cuttings that I've collected from other members of CRFG and grown them into full trees. So we'll teach you how to do it too. And like I said, we all give back to the organization, and we get so much out of it too. So let's take a quick look around. So just while we're standing right here, we've got the Laurel Bay tree right here, which we use, very fragrant leaves that we use in cooking. And just behind it, we have from Jamaica, we have allspice tree, which again, in Jamaica, they use the leaves to make a paste to make jerk chicken with. It has a wonderful scent, exactly like the allspice spice that we use. And the only thing that we actually get, it makes a fantastic tea. And we actually get the nuts that we grind up, and that's what we cook as allspice. But in the country where it originates from, they rarely use the nuts. They use the leaves for everything. We've got a red Baron peach tree. We've got 2 varieties of mulberries right here, and a fig tree just behind the one in the back. And in this direction over here, if we just take a couple of steps, we have an apricot tree. We have a tropical apricot tree. We have a quince. We have an apple. We have another apricot tree in between, and a Pakistani mulberry tree here. And mixed inside, we've got spider lilies and plumeria trees. And we have on the end a couple of avocado trees growing. And we even have a popcorn cassia, which is a very unique tree also, where the kids absolutely love it. If you take your hand and you touch the leaves with your hand and then you smell it, it smells exactly like buttered popcorn from a movie theater. On this side, we have my Australian area. We have a wide variety of Australian trees around here, which have very unique flowers, have very low water requirements. Just on the other side of the path, we have some olive trees. I have 9 varieties of olive trees growing here right now. You can see some larger ones just over on the path there. And olive trees are unique in that they are wind pollinated. They are not pollinated by insects. So you need to have the olive trees relatively close to each other so that when the wind comes up, it can spread the pollen from tree to tree.
So on the property, there's several ponds, such as this one here, and I see that there's fish and a ton of bees and these beautiful plants. Is this part of the collection?
This is a very significant part of the overall environment that I'm trying to create here. To be able to pollinate all the different fruit trees that I have here, I need to bring bees in. And to be able to keep bees, I am a beekeeper, but in addition to that, I must provide them with moisture because there's no natural water anywhere near the mountaintop that we're on. So all around the property, I have ponds with floating plants, and inside every pond is filled with mosquito fish so that we avoid any possibility of mosquitoes' larvae coming into still water. And that's very important. Please make sure that you don't maintain still water unless you have mosquito fish in it.
So the fish are keeping the mosquito population in check?
Yes.
And then you got the bees drinking the water to create the honey that the family gets to enjoy. And about how many pounds of honey are we enjoying from this water here?
Well, we get around 200 to 300 pounds of honey a year here.
That's fantastic.
So it's a very significant. And although I don't really have the bees for honey, it's a lovely byproduct. I really have the bees for pollinating and creating an environment that's safe for them with no pesticides and a lot of variety of flowers that flower all year round here, which is very important too, so that they have access to their pollen and nectar.
Such a wonderful synergy you've got between the bees and the pollination and the fruits on the property, and then
the water lilies aren't too bad either. I have some wonderful collections of water lilies here. Okay, well right now we're standing in one of my fig orchards. Again, everything that I plant is on a mountainside, so you'll notice that it's fairly steep. I don't terrace, but I do put basins in, using the fallen trees on my property, so there's very little waste here. This has always been one of our favorites. It's a long neck yellow fig, and I'll just let you take a look at it. You can see the juice is just flowing out of it. How juicy that is. And I better taste it just to be sure. Oh my goodness. It's like eating sugar. Here's a little different one, and this one will probably have more of a berry flavor. And it's not quite as juicy, but definitely ripe. Among some of the more exotic things that I grow here, this is a curry leaf tree. You'll notice that it's actually full of fruit right now. I can't wait for it to ripen. And what they do in India is they take the leaves, they crush them a little bit, and then they fry them in oil. And curry itself is actually a combination of spices. There's no one spice that is actually curry. The only exception to that is the curry leaf tree. And they take these leaves and they fry them in oil, and then the oil takes on the exact flavor of curry. It's very, very unique. It is extremely strong and very pungent. So I'm really looking forward. The tree will actually get about 6 or 8 feet tall as it continues to grow. And the fruit does not actually have a curry flavor. It's very sweet and it's red. So it's really very delightful when I can get it. And this is the first year that I have fruit on the tree, so I'm really looking forward to it. All right, on this hillside, although I have a wide variety of things planted, it is my main citrus area. So this particular tree, if you look carefully, there's actually quite a bit of fruit on it. This fruit is from last December, and it's still on the tree. It's still ripe. It's a new improved Meyer lemon. We have Oro Blanca growing. We have Valencia growing up on the hillside. We have my absolute favorite has to probably be the cocktail grapefruit, which is one of the juiciest and sweetest grapefruits I've ever had in my life. This is a Suriname cherry tree. If you look closely, some of the cherries actually look like Chinese lanterns. They're quite small. They usually get about the size of about 1 inch. And there's red varieties and there's kind of a black variety. A Lolita is the variety that I have. Creates a black fruit. Among the many different things that I do grow here, I also grow sugarcane, which grows very successfully here. And I cut it and juice it. And we also have a little grape vine in front of us. We have a little mulberry tree here. And we have a cross between a mandarin and a kumquat here, which makes really delightful fruit. Unfortunately, there's nothing in season. It's a little past the season right now.
So Bruce, this part of your orchard has sparked a few questions for me that I'm hoping you can help answer for our viewers. And first one is, we're here next to these logs that you've used to basically shore up the soil. And I know you could have used retaining blocks or concrete. Just interested into why you've used these logs instead. Secondly, you've got these cages around each of your fruit trees. If you can explain why all of your fruit trees are in cages. And last but not least, I'm sure I'm gonna have some more questions for you shortly, but I've noticed all of your fruit trees are clustered. Over here are your figs, and then behind that your sapote. Behind that are your citrus trees and mulberries and even pomegranates. Can you explain why they're all in clusters? I'm sure our viewers would be interested in those answers.
All right, well, first of all, the way I build the basins reflects my aesthetic of more natural materials. I try to utilize everything that's on my land. And I use wood because I think it just looks more natural in its appearance than putting cement, berms, or brick or mortar. And I will have to replace them eventually, but as they break down, it feeds the soil. So it's a very positive and organic approach to gardening. You'll notice everything that I plant here, as I mentioned earlier, I fight gophers. And because I have so much land, it's very difficult for me to trap them effectively. So I find, although it's a lot more energy and effort, I find if I create stainless steel cages around each thing that I'm planting, I can get 3 or 4 years that will allow the tree to establish its roots before any gophers can get to it. And so far, most of these cages are about 3 years old, and I find them to be very effective. I'm not finding trees laying on the side of the hillside anymore, which is what the gophers used to do. In terms of the way I plant things, I like to plant things a little bit aesthetically, a little bit random, and a little bit reflecting the pollination. So if I have similar trees near each other, then it helps for cross-pollinating much easier. One of the problems with home gardens is knowing your individual trees that you plan to plant has to reflect how tall they get, how wide they get, and how close in proximity they can be to other trees that you're planting. So although, for instance, I have multiple mulberries growing here, and a mulberry tree will typically get 30 feet high and 25 feet wide, what we call a canopy tree. But I prune them quite regularly to keep them at a certain height, usually about 8 to 9 feet and maybe 10 feet wide, which is very manageable. It doesn't seem to affect the surrounding trees. One of the positive benefits of pruning mulberry trees is that when you do prune them, it usually promotes new growth, and that new growth will immediately set out more fruit, which I don't think of any other tree that really does that quite uniquely as mulberries do. In terms of up above, it's my citrus grove, and since citrus requires good pollination, having multiple trees in close proximity makes it much easier for the bees to cross-pollinate everything.
So Bruce, what are these green apple things here on this tree here in your garden? And tell us a little bit about it.
All right, well that is a Subel sapote tree, and sapotes are a very unique fruit. It gets fairly globular, and the green starts to lighten green a little bit, and then it softens like an avocado, and then it tastes pretty much like ice cream. It's very smooth and very creamy and very sweet. And sapote trees have a special place in my heart because it's the first tree I learned how to graft on. Originally at my other house, I had put 3 sapote seeds in the ground, and they grew to about 15-foot trees, but they never produced any fruit for me. So I cut them off at 3 feet, all 3 trees, and within 4 months I had 3 new branches growing in each of the cut trees. And from those 3 branches, 9 altogether, I ended up grafting 9 varieties of sapotes on the 3 trees. And I actually ended up getting fruit on all of them for many, many years after that. So it's always had a soft spot in my heart for them. So almost everything I grow here has started from what we call a scion, which is a little cutting about 6 to 8 inches long and about the size of a pencil. If you look carefully behind me, you can see almost 40 different varieties of fig trees that are just starting to grow here in the greenhouse. I have some baby bananas straight ahead. In the greenhouse, because we don't have a tropical environment, I'm growing heliconia, the flowering plant from Hawaii. And we've got different things. We've got a lychee growing here, an avocado for grafting. We even have some sugar cane starting up, and some other fig trees on the floor, and a Suriname cherry on this side right here. So this is where I grow everything before it goes outside and gets planted in the ground. All right, well right here we have a Kai apple. There's a male and female tree. I have multiple trees growing in the area. In South Africa, where they're native, they actually plant these trees next to the houses, around the houses, to keep the lions away, because they are so sharp and dangerous, and they make a spectacular kind of light orange colored fruit, which is can be sweet or sour depending on the variety that you have. Wonderful fruit though, and if you don't like the sour fruit, it makes a spectacular jelly. Okay, well, one of the problems with growing at 2,500 feet up in the air is that you're exposed to a lot of sun, very direct, with less protection as you get lower on the land. And one of the problems I have is with avocados, where regardless of how much water I give them, oftentimes they suffer being burnt in the sun. And Charles has a great product that I should be using now that would have helped protect the tree more, and I'll let him talk about it.
Well, Bruce, you now do have the Ivory Organics 3-in-1 and WhiteWash products that can help protect your trees from first, second, and this here is a 3rd-degree burn that toasted the top of your avocado tree. The burn is actually happening throughout the tree trunk where it's exposed to too much light. Here we are now, summertime, with 14 hours of hot daylight, and the tree will burn and suffer that first, second, 3rd degree sunburn damage. If you look back in the history of the tree, you can see that the grower initially did whitewash the tree trunk when it was smaller. Avocado trees are among the most prone to first, second, and third degree sunburn damage. Until the tree develops a canopy that naturally shades the underlying tree trunk and lower branches, until that happens, you gotta take care of your baby trees. Again, whether they be avocado, citrus, or anything else, and protecting those underlying tree trunks and branches so they're not wasting energy repairing sunburn damage and can instead focus on growing so we can get it to flowering and ultimately fruiting sooner than later.
We have a low chill variety of cherries, which means you can actually grow cherries in Southern California. So this is a mini royal cherry, and then there's a royal Lee cherry tree next to it. Now, when you're growing these two varieties of trees, it is necessary to get both trees because they must cross-pollinate to produce fruit. But it is a very low chill factor. I think it's about 300, 350 hours, as opposed to normal cherry trees take 900 to 1500 hours of chill. And chill simply means that the air temperature, ambient air temperature, is between 32 and 45 degrees for the number of hours that the individual trees need to set fruit. In addition to that, we have a subtropical tree right next to it. We're growing longans, which you can actually see the longan fruit right on the branch. So probably in about 4 months, we're going to have some delicious longans. All right, well, here we have Pitahaya, which is a dragon fruit. It is a subtropical cactus, a very unique variety. And what I do every night is I have to hand pollinate the flowers that open up in the evening and are only viable, the pollen is only viable until the morning. So you'll see that the flowers now, it's mid-afternoon now, so the flower has already opened and we need to do some pollination. And the stamens are inside. And if we do it properly, it will start to set fruit. And if you look here, I have about 9 varieties of dragon fruit here. You'll see that the fruit looks very different from specimen to specimen. And you see, this is how you know that the fruit is taken. The flower dies off, but the fruit starts to grow behind it. So all along here, you'll see different varieties. And the unique thing is there doesn't seem to be a specific season, because right here we've got brand new buds that are just starting to open, they won't open up for probably 2-3 weeks. We had an opportunity to walk a little bit of the garden today. There's so much to see. It takes a long time to really enjoy it. I've done the best I can so far, and I'm looking forward to another 10 years of gardening here, where I'll probably put in another 500 plants, given a little bit of time and energy. And hopefully California will get some rain and I won't have to worry about the water restrictions, which makes it much harder to garden the way I'd like to.
Well, hopefully we'll be back here again. Bruce, thank you so much for the tour. And I know, again, this was just a small slice of the pie of just the diversity of the food forest that's growing here on Bruce's property. And looking forward to hopefully bringing more of these educational lessons to you to continue immediately learning more about the rare fruits that you can be growing in your backyard. I highly recommend you go to crfg.org. I've got the website here on the page as well as in the video description below. If you've enjoyed this lesson, as always, be sure to give us that thumbs up, share us with your gardening friends and family, and most importantly, keep growing with Ivory Organics, and wishing you all happy gardening.